Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Front Row VIP Expert film series. We're so excited that you're joining us because we have so many great trainings for you, and they really run the gamut. And the way this started was we told the participants in the Front Row VIP Accountability Challenge that we run twice a year that the winning team would be able to present a webinar of their choice to our audience. And so what they've come up with is we've just got some really great topics, and they're going to be running all throughout the day. And if you miss one, don't worry, there will be replays in the Front Row Facebook group, and you can get there by going to frontrowclassroom.com if you aren't already a member. And we're going to kick things off today with Christina Mosteller. Her topic is using Asana to map your runway and launch, how to use Asana while mapping out your upcoming runway and launch, a Trello alternative for your launch checklist. So I am a huge fan of Trello. So I'm going to bring my notebook and have my pen ready here for this training because I want to learn about Asana. People rave about it. A little bit about Christina. She is a certified launch manager. She started out as a tech VA for many entrepreneurs who use Kajabi and WordPress and Squarespace and other stuff. And she began to work with only entrepreneurs who were launching, and she realized that she enjoys all the moving parts of a launch. And when she was still a tech VA, many of the entrepreneurs she was working with her were asking her what's next. And she sort of felt like a lot of that stuff was outside her zone of genius. But over the last year, she has been through multiple launches and even went through a rigorous launch management certification program. And her clients include course creators and coaches who have products or services but need help managing all the moving parts throughout their launch. So without any more of my blah, 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 let me hand it over to Christina. Get cozy, get your coffee, get your tea, get a pen and paper. Make sure you turn off all your distractions, and let's let Christina take it away.
Hello, Front Row. Hi, fellow VIPers. My name is Christina Mosteller, or Christy, some of you may know me as. And I wanted to thank Jen Lanner so much for allowing me this opportunity to share what I know about Asana and to planning for your runway and launches and how to utilize the tool. So just want to dive right on in, and hello wherever you are watching from. And I hope you can gain a lot from this training. So if I'm looking over here, it's because I have another screen that I am utilizing at the same time. And we're going to jump right on in. I'm going to make this full screen and let's go. So if you've never worked with Asana, it's very similar to Trello in where it can work with project and also can be great for checklists as well. I prefer Asana. I do work via Trello as well, but for different tasks. And with Asana, I love working within launches. So when I do have a client that joins me, I have a Trello board that's built out, Asana board that's built out for them. And this is where we work from if we are working together. So if you can see here, this is actually my favorites section. And this is actually going to be above all of my clients. My clients are down below, so I'm actually not going to scroll down just for those purposes. But right here, you can see I have a couple of projects that are opened up. And if you are starting to work with Asana for the first time, which is, it's a great platform. There is a free version. You don't need the premium or the business. The free version is just awesome as well. So if you're going to open up a new project, you're going to go to the plus sign at the very top, and you can either add a task, add a project, message someone, go to your team, or invite someone to the board. So if you're working with clients, you would actually invite them specifically to the board. But if you were going to invite a team member, you would invite them this way through the plus sign. So I'm going to start a project. There's a lot of templates in Asana that you can certainly use. However, I personally, when I first start creating my projects and I'm not sure of how I would like to use them, I prefer to use a blank project. But just so you can see, for example, the different types of templates that they do have available to you. Again, I prefer to build mine out before I utilize what is available to me, just because I do like to have, I do like to make it very specific, but nothing wrong with the templates. I do have the templates. I do use them for other projects and other clients as well. So I'm going to call this launch just for today. And I'm going to choose, it's going to only go to my admin and public to the team. So anyone who it's shared with, they can join if they would like, or if I need them to. And here, it just like Trello, you can have various different views, but the same thing where if I choose to view it as a list at first, which is something that I prefer to do, if you choose to use it as a board, just because I click it as a board does not mean that I can't go back to a list. So actually these are pretty fluid as far as, the different choices that you do have. And starting with a list, I'm going to create the project. All right, and I'm going to start out with a blank template. Now, what I personally like to do is I like to have anything that I need to grab right away or real quick or have fast access to it, I'm going to add into the first section. So when I create my first section, I'm going to call this resources. And this is actually, if I'm working with a client, I would call it client resources as well. But if you're building this by yourself, resources, perfect title for it. Now, when you are creating your tasks, okay, so I'm going to add a task to this section. When you're creating tasks, it's always best to have a verb of some sort, something that's an action that can be done, right? So, but in this section, I am only going to place in items that I need as a quick grab. So let's say I'm going to add in homepage. Or the next one, I just hit enter and it drops me down. I can add in sales page, because when we're going through a launch, you want that sales page, especially in your live sales event, to be a quick grab. So I'm going to have my sales page, and then perhaps even, a link to my copy, to the copy, whether it's your sales page copy or it is, your email campaign copy or graphics, right? So let's have a sales page link. All right, so anything that I'm going to be adding in, if I click on to the actual Stripe itself, it will come and open up this tab here, right? So if I want to close the tab, I just click this section right there. But if I want to add details, so homepage details, so if there's something that I want to add into here, a task or some background information, I can add that information into the description tab right there. So whether it is adjust, colors need to be looked over or adjusted, and it's not quite a task just yet, but it's within the description, you can add that into the description. Also, what you can do is add in a due date. So let's say if I'm working with a client and we're going to start working together next week, and I need the client's homepage and I need the client to do something specifically, or if you want to do something specifically by a certain date, I want it to have it done by the 14th. And again, when you're setting forth your dates, make sure that you are, explaining that you want to have it done by the 14th, or is the 14th when you want to have it, kind of what does done mean, right? Is it fully completed? Has it been edited and checked? Or is it something where you want to at least have the draft done by the 14th? But right now we're not doing that. We're just putting in the homepage link, and you can actually add the link into here as well. So there is a way that you can add the homepage and then add the URL to that homepage, and it will be clickable in this area. So if I have the homepage here, I can add the link, and it can be a real quick grab. I can even add comments down below. So I can add a couple of collaborators, someone from the team or someone from within I can add the client to this tab as well. Now, if I want to assign it to somebody, I can assign it to myself, and I can assign it to a team member or a client who's working, whose board this is. So if I actually wanted to add the client's name, so let's say I'm the client, I can add my name as well. And you can see right here that it pops up that I am responsible for this tab. And then also my little picture will show up here that I am responsible for the tab as well. So let's close this for a second. So now I'm going to move this over because I don't need all of that space. Right at the moment, I don't need the space, right? But I can certainly add. So right here, this is who's assigned That's who's assigned. And this is the due date, right? Now for the due date, what's awesome about the due date is I can actually have a range, right? If I have something that's within a specific timeline. So let's say I have a really important date. I have the runway and the launch. So let's say open cart. So let's say the entire launch, right? From open to close carts. And I want to put in a specific date. And so let's say our open and close cart is not until next month and it's between a date range. So we're going to do the start date is going to be the 31st and the close cart date is going to be the 9th, right? Ooh, hello. Yeah, the 9th. So let's say the range is going to come up right here. So it's not necessarily that I want it to be a link or quick grab, but maybe some sort of knowledge that I want to put at the top. So it's a real quick event that I need to know the dates for, right? And another date range could be if you have a bonus, right? So your bonus is only going to be available, your fast action bonus, if you have a fast action bonus, is going to be available from, let's say, August 31st, because that's when we first open up the cart, and it's only available within that date range from the 31st to the 1st. And that's the date that I need right there. So fast action bonus is only available until September 1st. And if I want to put in a time, I can add a due time as well. So if it's due by 11:30, or I could put, maybe I don't want to, but I could put 11:59 if I do needed to as well, that's when it's due by. Okay, so as far as assignings, you can you can filter, you can organize, or you can categorize, or you can put in order based on due date. So if something's sooner, I can click on due date and it will put the tasks in order by their due date, or I can put them based on assignee, or I can organize them based on when they were sorted. So by alphabetically, if I want them alphabetical as well. If not, I can just leave them be, and how they got added to the board is they can just stay in that order as well. What I also like to do is I like to add tags. And so I'm going to come over to customize. And I already have these tags created, right? So I'm adding tags, and now you'll see that it popped up in this top menu right here. And so some of the tags may be who's responsible, what department is responsible for having this done. So, and it's also color coordinated, which I love even more. So let's say I'm the launch manager and I'm responsible for putting in the homepage and getting that homepage into this area by the 14th. So I need to search and do the pre-work before working together with the entrepreneur. And I have this set that right now launch manager is responsible for this. And let's say the open cart, closed cart, whoever that entrepreneur is, I can add in client, tag for client, and I'm going to color that client with a different tag. So let's make the client, we'll say purple, so it really pops. And let's say the sales page copy is going to be the copy editor, copywriter, right? Copy team, whomever. And I'm going to create them, let's say orange. So the colors really pop, right? And what I really love is when you are looking down this list, and I'll show you a glance of the list, and it can be really overwhelming, especially when you're working with a launch is a project that's as complex as a launch, right? It's because you have the pre-runway, the runway, and then you have your the launch itself, and then you have your debrief at the end. So especially when you're spreading that out over many days. So working with entrepreneurs, the minimum that I say to start out is 8 weeks. And then, some entrepreneurs need some time to put all of these assets together, and we'll spread that out over the course of 10 to 12 weeks. So that's a lot of tasks. And it could be well over 200 tasks altogether. Sounds like a lot, but hold on, stay with me. So now we have these different tags, and they start to pop. So now we're going to add a section. A new section is going to be, and this is where we're going to start adding in the action verbs, right? The action words, and we're going to add in actual to do. So let's say that week 5, we are putting together, we are starting to put together, we're collecting, right? So launch is usually around weeks 6 and 7. And then our debrief is around week 8. So 6, 7. So let's say week 5, we are implementing, or we are also double checking as well, right? So implementing, making sure that everything's still working. So week 5, let's add in a task. And the task is going to be, let's say we're going to proofread sales page. And another task that can go on this week is going to be connecting sales page to checkout, right? And so let's just start out with those, because we're going to make sure that these are all set, ready to go. So next week when we have our launch, so we're open cart. So week 6 is open cart. I'm going to add a task to open cart. And one thing that we definitely want to make sure that we have done is we have publish sales page, because right now the sales page is in draft mode, right? So I want to add in, so connecting the sales page to checkout, whomever you would assign that to your team, that would not be me as far as the team goes. Or if you have tech, right? If you have a tech team, let's say we want to do this within open cart. We said open cart is from the 31st and to the 9th. And let's say we want to push this open, connect the sales page to checkout the week before the 31st. So here we have August 31st to the 9th. That's our quick date of our launch. So I actually want to make sure that the sales page is connected to the checkout by the 24th. And let's say I want to put a time on that. So by 12:30 in the afternoon, I want to make sure that this is set and ready to go. Okay, so here's the due date. And then who I'm going to put in charge of that is going to be the tech team. So I'm going to create the tag for tech, and I'm going to highlight tech as blue, either blue, right? Anything that pops. And so anything tech related is going to be highlighted here. And now connecting the sales page to checkout. So there might be a few more details needed, right? Now, do I have to go into here to add a subtask? I definitely do not. I can also come over here and I can right click and I can add, I can duplicate the task. I can copy the task, create a follow-up task. I can open this up into a new tab. Well, let's say I'm going to add a subtask, because connecting the sales page to checkout is not the only thing that we're going to do. I want someone to check or connect Stripe. Maybe I want someone to connect Stripe, and maybe I want someone to connect PayPal or whatever payment services that you use. And I want to make sure that I can still tag and assign someone the subtask. So let's click into here. We're going to click into the details, and the details will open up again. Now, just be very careful when you are working in subtasks, because when you're working in subtasks, you can sometimes get lost within the subtask of the subtask of the subtask. And that can just create a web that maybe you might make too complex, and you don't want to do that, right? So I do suggest staying within your task and your subtasks, but not creating a subtask in the subtask, if that makes sense. Hopefully that does make sense, right? So here you can see the subtasks are now created, and you can see that there's 2 that are added. And when I'm working in a launch plan and I'm creating this, and I'm creating the actual structure of the checklist itself, you'll see that some of those tasks have 5, some of them have 8 subtasks there. But again, they aren't, most of the time, I'm not putting a subtask in a subtask. I'm just keeping those subtasks right there so that they are, so that I can see all within a streamline as to who needs to do what. Also a reminder that you want to have an action verb available. So now my team, whomever is in charge of tech, they can open up and see the subtasks, and they can see that they are here. And make sure that when you are using Asana, whether it's for yourself or with your team, make sure that you are adding in who is checking off whether or not it's complete. Is it you, or is it a team member? So something that I actually added in that I love doing is I actually have let me add it. Sorry, I'm going to add a field. I'm going to add a drop down from my library. And I have task progress, right? So I have task progress is something that I created prior, and I can actually add in that maybe the tech team has not started this yet. And if they have not started it yet, we can see certainly that this is something that needs to be done. So if I did come to the checklist, I did come to this overall page, I can check to see what has been started, what has not been started. And even the team, what I prefer, this is something how I utilize it, is that when they're in progress, they change to that it's in progress. So I know that the tech team's working on this, and it's a great way to communicate without actually having to, send messages back and forth. I could just take a look at the plan overall, and I'll see whether or not it's in progress. Something else that I love is if they are waiting. So the team could say that they're waiting. So if I come to this and I see that they're waiting, I can click in and see the details of, did they tag someone? Did they mention it? So let's say the team is waiting for me. They can actually tag me in a comment. So they can do @ you can type in @ and let's say they are tagging me, and you check. So they comment, I will be notified whether it's via email, or I'll be notified that I need to check something or that I've been mentioned. And I'll show you where this shows up in a bit. But this is great. So I can see if they asked the question, and maybe it wasn't to me, but I can certainly go in and see that the team's waiting for something. So if they marked it for the client and they say, can you check this? And the client is the person who's needs to check it. I can go in and see what the question was. I can follow the conversation right here, and I can certainly see that the client needs to check, and I can maybe go to the client and double check and say, did you happen to see this? So there's a couple more than just one set of eyes on a task at any time. Now, if you do tag them within here, this is where it starts to get a little bit messy, because if you do click inside and they do mention me as well, let's say here, this is ready, and we want you to look, they can certainly comment here as well, and you'll see how this shows up when I go to my inbox, right? So now I'm in here, and sometimes this can get a little confusing because now I'm in a subtask of the subtask, right? So, or of the task, actually, it's just the subtask of the task. So if you're doing subtask of the subtask, that's where, if you can figure out now, it can get confusing, which is why I suggest not to go too much more in depth as far as what you can see. So I can see here that there's a message left. And if I click in, I'll go to that message as well, right? So, so let's connect the sales page to, and I can see that tech is tagged, and I can see that this task is in waiting. So if I do go in and I do take a look, I can check it, and then I actually have another one where I have in here continue, right? So this is actually not the one that my team uses, but I do have one that says continue, and then my team will go back and put in progress when they get the message and when they're ready to move forward. Now, going back to where we were talking about the check mark and who marks it complete, what I personally like to do, I like to have my team mark that it is completed and that it's done. So I can see here that the task is done. And so therefore I can go in and check and see what was completed, what was done, to make sure that there's nothing missing, because if I need to, I can go back to not started or waiting and let them know that I'm waiting myself because I did tag them. And I'll make note that they need to continue, right? So that's where I have that continue phase. So when they're done, I will come over here and I can mark it complete. And if you have Asana, or if you prefer this, some people like to leave their checklist as is. So just like on paper, when you mark it out, it's still there. You can see that it was a task, that it was edited, it was completed, it's done, it's scratched out. Some people like to leave it there. I personally like to create a rule. Now, this here, a rule is something that's like an automation, something that is taken care of right away. So if I wanted to, I can customize and I can create a rule. And because this is the free version, I can create the rule as far as when I mark a task complete, it can be moved to a certain section. So let's go back real quick and let's add the section complete. When I have this, so let's unmark that. I'm going to change it. I'm going to customize. I'm going to add the rule that when a task is marked complete, I'm going to move it to a certain section. I'm going to move it to complete. I'm going to create this rule. So now anytime, so this is why I prefer to do the check as opposed to my team members, but I still have this as done, that they are all done here. So when I take a look, I'm glancing, I can see that it's done. When I come here and I hit the check mark, it will automatically, Asana will take it and it will move it to the completed section. So it's telling me right now that it's moving it for me. So now I have less to look at when I'm in week 5. But that's something that I personally like to use. I prefer to do. You have to feel out how that works best for you, if this is something that you can do, because it becomes that hazy gray area that I do see with a lot of people who do use Asana or any other project management, that they're not sure of who marks it done. Does the team mark it done? How do they notify you that it's done? And how do you notify your team that you took a look at it and that it's completed, right? So that's a 2-step process that I like, just because I can see that they completed it. I can go in and check if I need to, and then I can fully complete the full task so that it's out of sight and it's no longer there. So something personally that I like to do. But you also have things that you can add in. You can add dependencies. I personally don't like to use dependencies because that just adds more clutter to the interface right here. But the same thing, put in done or whatever you would like to use. Something else that I like to add in sometimes, depending on how tight of a timeline we're on or that my team is in, is I like to add in priority. So is this a high priority? Is it a medium priority? Or is it a low priority? And sometimes, depending on how you like to see your screen, sometimes it is quite a bit to see all these different colors and what they mean. So it really is dependent on what you prefer, right? So that would be the priority. And then also I have tagged as well, if you have a paid version, what you can do is anytime that you have a launch manager tagged, a rule that you can create is anytime you have a specific department tagged, you can have it so that it will make an assignee right away, which is something that I also like to do within our own Asana, is if I have launch manager or if I have the tech team or if I have a graphic designer and I have someone who's in charge of that department, that when I give it to that department, that person gets tagged and then they can assign it to someone within the department if there is someone else within that department as well, right? So that is a rule that is available via Asana, very similar to, you would customize it. I don't personally have this because, again, it's a rule that it's not available to me in the free version. But if you have the paid version, you certainly can do this and create a customized rule that if someone's tagged, that it will automatically assign an individual, which is great. I think that's a great tool to use. Now, going through, we have our different views. So this is the list view. You also have the board view. So here we have our resources. You have the implementation week right here, proofread. And then you also have week 6, the open cart phase. And we can take a look here. We can see that this is what the cart looks like. And then we can see anything that was complete was added into this section. Here's the timeline phase, based on the dates of when things are due. And you can see here's the timeline, right? So, and they're all color coordinated. So again, you can see who's in charge of what, and then it's faded out because it's been completed or time has passed. And this is how it would look, very similar to the list section. So again, you can open it, you can close that section if you would like. If you don't want to see everything here, if you don't need to see it all there, you can still close it. I'm going to open that back up. Here's calendar. So here's showing up in the calendar. So the pink is from the tag. So launch manager is the pink. And then if we're going to go to continue through the calendar, here's the open cart. Since I was in charge of a task of the open cart, we can certainly change it up and move it to, I'm sorry, it wasn't me, it was the client. So the client's in charge of the open cart as far as, so they have an idea of what tasks they need. And then you can see here that there's the different priority. You have that it's done, and then that it's part of the launch project template, right? This is also part of launch. And so that you have your color coordination. So that's where the color coordinations come into play. And it's part of the launch project, because when you have different clients and you have different projects going or different students, and you have all these moving pieces, this is the calendar view just for this project here. So then anything that does not deal with the launch project, and if it's such as your regular marketing, so your daily marketing that you're doing, your yearly marketing that you're doing, that has its own project, it's not going to show up in this calendar view here. You have a dashboard as well, so you can see all the information here. Completed task, incomplete, overdue, and you have this overview of the entire dashboard as far as this one project goes. And if you have any messages, you can send messages to members, very similar to if you were to use Slack in that way. So if you do have messages from the client, you can put it into here, or if you have messages from your team, it can go into here as well. If you have any forms that you're putting in, I don't personally use the forms, but if you have forms that you're collecting information, I would go into this area here, and any attachments and files that were placed into your tasks will show up here. So any files that were shared will show up here, so you can see them all in one location. So I'm going to go back to the list. So here, the files, if I have the copy and it's a document, what I personally like to do in the description, I like to add a link to the actual copy. So in our drive, every single client has their own folder. So in that folder, if it's a Google Doc that we share, then I'll take the link to that Google Doc, and I'll put the link right in here in the description. So that's how I like to add in a quick grab for the copy. I'm not actually going to put the whole copy in there. You're more than welcome to. Of course, how you use this is up to you, but I personally like to have the copy hyperlinked so that it's a real clean interface. Same thing with the sales page link. I'm going to hyperlink it in, and I'm going to have it here readily and available to me, right? So, all right, so now we have all these moving parts, right? So we have here, a couple things on launch manager. So let's say that I'm in charge of, so that's the client. I'm going to change this, right? So I'm going to say this is not tech. I'm going to change this and say that this is not complete. I'm going to put this back into week 5 and not started yet. So we'll add, this is actually belongs to the launch manager, and we're going to assign it to myself. So we'll see what this actually looks like. So fast action bonus, I'm just going to assign this to myself so I can show you what it looks like as the timeline goes through. All right, so now a really important place for you to hang out if you're going to use Asana, the board, especially if you're adding in tasks, right? But I wouldn't go to the board, especially if you have a couple of projects, if you have a couple of them. You can get lost and you can spend a lot of time and waste a lot of time going in searching for tasks that you're in charge of or that needs your attention. So going through, if you have the inbox here, the inbox is one where if someone tags me, I will get the messages in here. And as far as my tasks go, here my tasks can all be found, especially if they're assigned to me. Okay, so I will see them all here. Now, if they don't have someone who's assigned, whoever made the task, it will show up into their box until they are assigned to someone else, right? So if it's not assigned to somebody, it's going to show up in that person who made the task. So I like to make all the tasks myself. If not, it is my head admin I have to give a shout out to the Front Row the Front Row CEO. I still am working with my team members since over a year ago that I got from the Front Row CEO. So quick shout out to that wonderful program that Jen put together. But so my head admin, who if they make it themselves, it'll show up there. So you saw that this is where I actually put in that it's that I am tagged here. And then if I am not tagged, it'll pop out of my tasks. So the two places that you really want to hang out, my tasks and your inbox. So anytime something new is where you're mentioned or that you have a message coming your way, that's where you want to hang out. And again, my tasks, I can change how they look. I can have recently assigned to me. I can see what's due today, and I can see what's upcoming for me, right? And then the same thing, I can add it into my calendar. Now, these aren't showing up because they didn't actually have actual due dates there. So we'll need to change that up as well. And then any files there. Now, as far as the actual interface goes, it's pretty, you do still need to take some time to learn it, still need to take some time to get to know it and see what works for you. This is not something that just was put together overnight, but I do want to show you real quick as far as overwhelm that can happen when we're doing a launch, and the overwhelm that can happen when you're putting together all of your checklists, which is why I say to hang out as much as possible in the My Tasks and your inbox. Is because let's go to our actual template. This is what we actually give to clients right away. Not right away, we give to clients when we start working with them. And this is why it can get overwhelming. All right, so here's the resources. We created this first just so we don't have to recreate this ever again. This is something that we have, we put together here. All right, so now we have all of these weeks. So this is the minimum that we're working with the client, minimum, right? No less. And we have all of our client resources here. So we have everything that we would need from the client from when we first start working with them. And then the only thing that we need to do is to change the date of everything, right? So that saves us a lot of time, which is great when you're creating a template. And then we have all of these here will be a list. And so when we start to get closer to the launch, we'll actually see that there's a lot that happens. So 5 each that, can be overwhelming if you open up all of these, right? So these are all going to be super overwhelming, especially when it comes to the client and what the client needs to do. So my suggestion to the client, my suggestion to you is always to go to My Tasks and inbox to make sure to see as far as what you need to have completed, what you need to have done. Because if you do go into this checklist, it can get overwhelming. Now, as far as the breakdown goes, when you go into here, again, here's the template itself, right? That's the project that it's part of. We would actually change the title to the client, or if it's a specific project that you're using it for. And then we have these small minor tasks here that each individual task will eventually be assigned an individual. So every single task has someone that's in charge of it, so that every single person will have that task. Every single task will wind up in someone's My Tasks section, so that we know that there's someone in charge, but we also build in double check. We build in proofread. We build in, so you see the proofread right here, testing, checking. So making sure that there's an action, but there's more than one person responsible for that action. So that actually helps with double checking, making sure everything's ready to go by the time we get there. By the time we get to week 6 and week 7, we've optimized, we've implemented, we've done as much as we could to make sure that everything's put into place. But again, it's a launch, it's a moving and breathing, almost, it's a lot of components put together. So that's the best way that we can structure and make sure that it is as put together as possible. So if I was to go to, of course, it's not in my view, so let's go to launch. I can search for launch right here. here's the project that I'm looking for. If I want to, I can actually click into, you saw that I did a slow click because I opened it up and then I said, no, I actually want to view all of the tasks in the project. If I click on it, it will filter all of the tasks for me in that project. So if you can't get out of the project itself and you have to go into the project itself, if you click on the tag or if you click on an individual more than once, so it's not necessarily a double click, but if you click on them more than once, it'll filter for you all of the moving pieces that they have that one person or that team or that department is responsible for. So it's quite a bit. So especially if you have that tag. So I do suggest making that tag section so that you can filter. And so you can see all the thing here. And then if I go back to the board, I can click and I can see what the client is responsible for, see if there's anything that's, overdue or anything that needs to be double checked. Copy, how is copy going? And I can go in and see what they are responsible for. All right, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, myself, in Star Launches Boutique, and we do help entrepreneurs with their launches. And if you are someone who is, trying to go through your launches and you're not sure of how to plan your launch or all the moving components and seeing ahead of time what goes into that launch. And, a lot of entrepreneurs, they want to just so you can show face and you can show up for your audience and feel confident that you have a lot of the moving pieces in place, and that you have all the moving pieces, checked, right? You don't want to have to worry about that. You just want to worry about showing up for your audience. And you want to worry about the content and being able to deliver that content and not everything behind the scenes, not all those moving parts. If it's overwhelming to you, that's where my team and I come into play. That's where my team and I help out the best is, helping out with that, seeing ahead of time what's coming. If there's ever a breakdown in tech, if you don't have a tech team, my tech team is available to you. And if you are looking to launch in sometime this year or within a shorter timeline right now, as far as VIP special goes, if you do let me know that you're coming from the front row, especially, with Jen Lehner's blessings, if you're coming from the front row, you are more than welcome to, if you let me know that you're coming from the front row, there is a discount for you as far as our services go. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for spending some time with me going over Asana. And hopefully I'm able to help you plan or to organize all those moving components together with your launch within this platform. So I wish you the best. And thank you, Jen Lehner, so much. And thank you so much, Front Row and Front Row VIPs, for viewing this training. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Christina. That was awesome. If you want to learn more about Christina and her offerings, make sure and click the link down below and make sure and join us for our next session, which is going to be with Diana Guerrero at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And her topic is What Animals Teach, Inspiring Lessons of Wild and Tame Creatures. So join us at 11 a.m. If you can't make it, there will be a replay available in the Front Row Facebook group. You can get there by going to frontrowclassroom.com.